Welcome into the ESPN FC studio. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Ali Moreno, Shaka Hislop and Steve McManaman on the day that Belgium put to place in the semi-finals of the World Cup at the expense of Brazil. A 2-1 victory then for Roberto Martinez's side. A surprise result, yeah?
Not for me. I thought they'd win, actually, Belgium. I said yesterday on yesterday's show I fancied Belgium.
I wasn't listening to that.
I know you wasn't listening, like normal. But I thought it was a really close game, and it could have went either way in the end. Belgium were very dominant in the first half. Well, Brazil started the game well, but then Belgium came into their own, took a two-goal lead, and at half-time, it was as if Brazil needed a wake-up call, which is unlike a lot of the stars of Brazil. You'd expect them to respond straight away. They didn't. They got into the game in the second half, and it was just all a little bit too late at the end. They had a couple of good chances. René Augusto had a good chance. Coutinho had a really good chance near the end.
Yep.
And blazed high and wide. But I'd like to think, Belgium were dangerous on the counter-attack and they deserve to win today. But I really enjoyed the game. I thought it was a great game to watch, very end-to-end, and typical of these two teams.
It was as you would expect from these two sides. What maybe came as a surprise was the fact that, as Maka said, the first 45 minutes, Brazil seemed a bit asleep.
Yes, they did. And what was a good start of the game where they get that early chance, a sort of knee bash by Thiago Silva that goes off the post, and then a couple of bounces that didn't quite go Brazil's way. And then the own goal happened by Fernandinho. And it's almost as if the lights went off for Brazil in a sense that we haven't been here before. Not in this tournament anyways, where we've been trailing. This is not the way it's supposed to happen. Sure. We're supposed to be the ones that jumps on Belgium. We're supposed to be the one that scores the goals. We're supposed to be Brazil. Here we are. And we're losing. And their reaction wasn't quite there for Brazil. And I think nobody in that team really knew how to react to that. Neymar in particular didn't quite know how to react to it because we saw a player that was kind of prancing around, jogging around, seeing the game happen, but not really participating. And when he actually had opportunities to participate, getting pushed off the ball, just kind of nudged off the ball, not really fighting through tackles, not taking players on. If you're Neymar, and this is your moment, this is your stage, you cannot afford to have that sort of behavior when your team needs you the most.
The conversation will inevitably focus on Neymar because with Messi out, Ronaldo out, the world's most expensive player was going to be under the spotlight, and it was his chance to shine, wasn't he? And he didn't.
No, he didn't. And we've been waiting for Neymar to kind of come to life in this tournament. He's had his moments, but all in all, not as good, or nearly as good, as we expected him to be. I think in many respects, he's had things all his own way. He's gotten calls. He's made the most of any kind of contact. He's gotten on the pitch and been rewarded by the referees. But then all of a sudden, come into this one, the referee kind of, I think, takes a bit of that history into account and doesn't allow Neymar his own way. Similarly, and as critical as we can be of Neymar and of Brazil, I think Belgium played a huge part in that. And Roberto Martinez got his tactics absolutely right. Stifled Coutinho. Meunier, who knows Neymar very well because they play club football together, didn't allow Neymar to get into stride. Neymar was never able to get the better of him. And as a result, Brazil just kind of spluttered for huge spells in this game up until the closing 20 or 25 minutes.
And let's talk about these Belgian tactics then, Maka. Of course, Fellaini coming in, Chadli coming. This was a big gamble for Roberto Martinez because of those names. In particular, Fellaini and the reputation he has.
Yeah, well, and Chadli, to be very honest. If anything, Chadli's had a worse season, hasn't he? Fellaini's played five times for West Bromwich Albion, who got relegated in the Premier League. When you talk about Carrasco, who's a forward-thinking player, and Dries Mertens, who's a forward player, to go very defensive, you're almost saying, come and beat us. I think we all decided that we wanted Roberto to be a bit more defensive after watching the performance against Japan. We probably didn't think he'd go in that way, bringing Fellaini and Chadli in, but they got a victory, and the amount of hard work that they put in, the two of them, the amount of blocks, certainly, that Fellaini and Witsel had in the centre of the field, when consistently Brazil came inside the pitch all the time, whether Coutinho to get a shot away, whether it was Douglas Costa in the end to get a shot away late on the second half. Everything was blocked. They defended stoutly, and he gets the right results. And when you get the right result, you deserve a pat on your back. And Fellaini was great today. They won the game against worthy favourites in the end.
Let's take a look at your player ratings, Shaq, for Belgium. High, I imagine. Who was your star?
Well, Kevin De Bruyne, who, for the first time, Roberto Martinez takes the shackles off and allows him to play very high up, just underneath Lukaku, employing both wings in actual fact. and got the goal. That turned out to be the winner and effectively killed off Brazil, though I know they staged a late rally, so to speak. And then Thibaut Courtois, also a 9 for that save late on. You know how much I thought about that.
Yeah, goalkeeper.
And the goalkeeper nerded me. He was even close to the goal. Yeah, that's how goalkeepers think. I thought Courtois was absolutely that good in a tournament where maybe he hasn't been called on that much, but he showed exactly why he's as highly thought of as he is.
Certain members of this panel who aren't here today, Steve Nicol, for example, isn't the biggest fan of Romelu Lukaku, but he was superb today, wasn't he?
Yeah, he led the line really well, didn't he? He was big, he was strong, he knew what to do, certainly in the latter part of the game. Of course, he had a big impact in the first half, but I liked his work rate in the second half. He knew when to run Miranda, he knew when to take a challenge, he knew when to hit the ground and buy a little bit of time. And they all played vital parts in and around the positions. They mightn't have been at the best, certainly in the second half attack going forward, but they always looked dangerous. Hazard was still full of running at the end of the game, still trying to duck and dive and move his shoulders and get into space. And I thought they saw the game out really, really effectively, quite intelligent, really. And I think it was a good sign for them. They grew up today. This was the first big test in a while. People compared them to, you know, they got beat to Wales in the Euros a couple of years ago. But this was their first major test, and they came through it with flying colours.
Meanwhile, on the flip side, let's take a look at Ali's Brazil marks, which I imagine are significantly lower knowing Ali. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and the first player to focus on is Fernandinho. He came in for Casemiro. Casemiro was suspended.
He scored, didn't he?
Well, yes, he did. On goal for Fernandinho, and then in the counter-attack for the second goal, it was Fernandinho that loses the ball twice to Lukaku and gets destroyed by Lukaku in the middle of midfield. Fernandinho, too many turnovers in transitions. Well, he wasn't good. But then you have to focus on the playmakers. On Neymar, we mentioned the fact that he can't just be a guy that parks himself on the left and that's it. Didn't do much, didn't create enough. Gabriel Jesus, not enough. Willian taken out at halftime. Coutinho gets a 6 because of the nice ball he plays to Renato Augusto in the goal. And then in the back line, it's 5 across the line because, well, you allowed 2 goals in the quarterfinal of the World Cup, and it cannot happen. Brazil, and as good as Belgium was, you have to think about the chances that Brazil has given up throughout the course of the tournament. So the same counter-attack opportunities that were available today to Belgium were available to Mexico.
Right.
But better players with Belgium destroy you. And that's what Kevin De Bruyne and that's what Romelu Lukaku did. This team of Brazil, as good as they were, and individually across the lines, today there were moments in which they got stretched, they got disorganized, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they did not know what to do once that first goal came in by Belgium.
I think some of that has to do with, I feel like there's a lack of leadership in this Brazil team as you look at it. Now, you see this team play, and you go a goal down. I'm expecting Miranda, Thiago Silva. I'm looking at them as more the natural leaders on this field. But during the course of not just this tournament, but the qualifiers, even they've ceded that leadership role to Neymar. And I think Tite has played a big part in that. But he goes missing because he's too busy trying to figure out what he's doing and begging for course to go his way. And as a result, you go a goal down. Now you're looking for leadership. And there's nobody in yellow who provides that leadership. And as a result, it becomes an almost heartless performance until you find yourself 2 goals down. It's only when Neymar does not get the penalty called in the second half that he gets angry, and he then all of a sudden gets himself involved in the game, and you see a better side of Brazil. But you cannot play against Belgium, favourites or not, Brazil or not. You cannot play against Belgium for 25 minutes in a World Cup quarterfinal and hope to win. You do that, you find yourself out. And that's exactly what happened.
To your point about leadership, Shaq, at some point somebody's got to tell Douglas Costa, buddy, don't come inside anymore. Take him on the outside, because every time you go on the outside, you're getting the best of him. You're getting into spaces, you're getting shots on goal. Courtois is able to come up with saves. And yet, you find, as you mentioned, you find players coming inside, everybody trying to come to the ball. There's no space to play. So leadership, it isn't just about yelling and screaming and tackling somebody.
Right.
It's about giving the right information. And I don't think that there was enough of that for Brazil today on the field.
They play too off the cuff at times, which, when they win, is brilliant. You know, we love the fact that they interchange and their mobility's great. But sometimes when they come up with a defensive block like they were today, when we knew that Fellaini would get back, we knew that Witsel would get back, we knew that Chadli would come inside, and make it really hard to break down. Sometimes they need just a little bit of patience. They need Douglas Costa to stay wide. They needed Neymar to stay wide, because when they do receive the ball, invariably they'll be one-on-one in space, but they kept on coming inside all of the time. Douglas Costa onto his left foot, Neymar into Coutinho, and then across the field all the time. Sometimes you're just begging him to stay wide and then drive at Mounier or drive at Vermaelen on the other side of the pitch. All right, they mightn't get past them all the time, but once you're driving at a person one-on-one and you're driving at the angle into the penalty box from a decent angle, then you're causing all kinds of problems. It's easy just to shuffle over everybody back across the pitch that way. And Belgium coped with it really, really. And I just thought it was a little bit, not naivety, because these are world-class players with huge amounts of experience. But once the going got tough today and they were under pressure, they just reverted back to, I'm going inside on my strongest foot, I'm going inside on my left foot or my right foot. And they did that consistently. And it played into Belgium's hands. And therefore, you have to praise what Belgium, Roberto Martinez, whoever made these hard decisions today, you have to praise them because they got it spot on. Belgium thought about this game. Brazil just went, same team, Casemiro's out because he's suspended. Right, Fernandinho's in, Marcelo's now fit and he's one of the leaders. He's back in for Felipe Luis. And they didn't really think, there was no game plan on how to win this game for Brazil. It was just a case of, go on, win the game, and we'll see you later.
Praise Belgium, and certainly so. But also, you have to talk about the fact that VAR, once again, is kind of, you can take whichever side you want, but the tackle by Company on Gabriel Jesus is a penalty.
Yep.
At the very least, it's close enough to where the referee needs to go and look at this play. So much so that it took time and time and time and time during the game, just kind of say, obviously there was a discussion going on within that VAR room. If there is doubt, okay, then it's not clear and obvious, right? So my sense is you have the system, implement it, use it, and have the referee take a look at it. Because if he takes a look at it, he sees that Company catches Gabriel Jesus. That's early on in the second half, makes the game 2-1, allows Brazil a whole lot more time to perhaps get an equalizer. I'm just suggesting that you use the system properly.
Well, we spoke to a former Premier League referee, Peter Walton. He thought it was a penalty. It's clear why he thinks that. It's all down to, I suppose, this clear and obvious rhetoric.
It is. And again, this is where the language and kind of confuses the protocols. Now, if it's that clear and obvious, then the referee doesn't need to go back and check. But if there is any kind of doubt, which is how it's been employed all tournament long, if there's any kind of doubt as to how this one will fall, then you allow the referee to go and check.
Should they have?
Without question. Without question. All we asking from you, stuck in these booths out in Moscow, wherever it is tell the referee that, listen, you need to have another look at this. In the end, the referee stood in the middle of the park with his hand to his ear so long that he could have made that decision without costing any more time. And if he still decides this isn't a penalty, well, that's on him. He's made the call. He's the one standing in the middle of the park. But to just kind of cede power that way to those sitting elsewhere, I thought is not how it's been used and not how it should be used.
They must have said no penalty. They must have said.
Yeah, they said don't
They
worry.
must have been a bit of discussion, and some might have thought it was a penalty. Some might have thought.
What was that a penalty for you?
Yeah. Well, I think Gabriel Jesus runs the ball out of play. He was never going to get there, was he? But once I saw it at a particular angle, I thought there was contact while the ball was still in play. So I would have said it was a penalty. But I must admit, the first time I saw it, I just said no.
But once they start having this discussion and they're not sure between themselves, give it to the referee.
Correct.
Yeah. That's when you pass it to the referee. You don't decide there. No. That's not what this is about. That's not how it's been used.
Well, we all remember on yesterday's show, Macca saying that Belgium were going to win. But for you at home, was it a surprise? We asked on Twitter how you reacted to this. Are you shocked? Only 8% were. Are you somewhat surprised? 29% were. Saw it come 63%.
Liars!
Oh,
Liars!
Show us those betting slips, eh? My crikey. Ali, how would you have voted?
Somewhat surprised, because I thought that Brazil had been improving in this tournament and we were going to continue to see the best of Brazil and the best of Neymar and the best of all these talented players. And today they took a step back, and I think certainly individually Neymar took a big step back in taking that jump to being one of the best in the world. I'm talking about in the conversation with Ronaldo and Lionel Messi.
Went backwards, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Quickly, what would you have answered, Shaq?
If you asked me this question before ball was quick, I'm very surprised. Let's remember, this is a Belgian
Shocked.
team. Shocked. Let's remember, Belgium were 2-0 down against Japan. How you go from that to
Didn't you say it was going to be 5-0 yesterday?
I said I could see a 5-0.
Oh, so yeah, you'd be shocked.
Again, Belgium were 2 down to Japan. To take that same team, all right, tweaks by Roberto Martinez, and get the better of Brazil, and deservedly so. I didn't see that coming.
Meanwhile, didn't you back Uruguay?
Yeah, I did that.
So,
I'm 0 for 2 today. Yeah.
This game kind of went as we thought it would, in the fact it was quite tight, quite tense.
For normal people, it went the way we thought it would. For Xhaka.
I'll tell you what, though, and I'll give France their credit. Deserved winners. We knew what Uruguay were going to be about. We're going to be tight at the back and selfish and not offer a whole lot to France going forward. But it was anything but. Gutierrez and Godin, they didn't seem to have that understanding as we'd seen all tournament long and come to expect. When you have Mbappe standing 3 or 4 yards of space, 6 yards from goal, that's not the two Uruguayan centre-halves that we've come to know. When you see the goals that they concede and how easily France were able to carve them up, and this in a game where I thought Mbappe didn't have a whole lot to offer. At least they got that right. But still, France dominated, created more than enough opportunities. Yes, the second goal is a goalkeeping error, but
you think?
But my point is, it was no less than France deserved.
Yeah, and no Cavani, of course, had a massive effect on this Uruguay.
It does. Certain players have massive effects on their team because they're the talisman, they're the leaders. And James missing for Colombia was a massive blow if you look at the starting 11. It was exactly the same today. Once Cavani wasn't involved, it was as if, you know, the air was sucked out of the team. They didn't have the life. They didn't have the defensive organisation that they normally have. And they never looked like scoring. You know, there was a couple of set pieces. I know Hugo Lloris made a save late on in the first half from a set piece. But apart from that, in the second half, it just didn't look like it was going to happen at all. It looked, unfortunately, a shadow of the Uruguay team. And Cavani, Suarez, Godin, if any of those three are missing, they look a lot more lightweight, aren't they? And it's sad, really, that they have to rely on those type of players, but they need to stay fit all the time if these teams are going to succeed.
Without Cavani, Uruguay could still be playing out there, and they would not be able to score from the run of play. Maybe a set piece, but the moment that France goes up 1-0 and now Uruguay sort of has to chase the game, then it's really out of character for them, and it's uncomfortable, and they get itchy, and it's like, well, what do we do now? This is not what we do best, and you don't have the options going forward. You have to chase it, so you're caught in between, and in trying to do in between things, you end up doing nothing. Uruguay simply was not a threat, and this was as comfortable as you can have it in a quarterfinal.
And also, France are very good, aren't they? I think you have to remember that as well. That really helps. Umtiti and Varane are playing for Barcelona and Real Madrid, respectively. You've got Kante, who was brilliant, sitting right in front of them. I mean, they're going to be hard to break down anyway. If you haven't got your star centre-forward alongside Luis Suarez, you're going to struggle.
So the first semi-final is complete. It will be France against Belgium.
No corners, long throw-ins, but it's going to be, it might be a tough watch, to be very honest.
Yeah, there is a sense it's going to be a bit ugly.
And that's the way Sweden would want it, to be quite honest with you, because then...
Can you stop it being ugly and being...
Well, England's have to play then. England's have to play.
Well, that responsibility is on England to be the team that, okay, is going to take the ball and turn forward and find those passes. Okay, that's great in design and on paper, but who are the players that are willing and capable of doing that for England? And that's where I would have an issue. Our conversation following the Colombia match is how many times England passed the ball sideways and back and decided to bail themselves out when going backwards rather than facing up and playing that ball forward and breaking down, in this case, Sweden. How are they going to do that? Because Sweden, they're going to be even more organized than Colombia. They're not going to get stretched, and they're waiting for you to say, okay, have the ball over there. Yeah. We're fine over here. And we're going to get you in a set piece, and somehow you're going to find yourself trailing in the game and thinking, how in the world are we losing to this team? We're better than they are, and yet they seem to be controlling the game without having the ball. That's what Sweden does the best. They control the pace of the game without actually having any touch on the ball.
Who have you got in this one? Who's going through?
It's 1-1, going to penalties. Sweden.
Oh.
You okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Don't worry.
It's not personal.
No, I understand that. You said it with a smile, though.
Well, kind of personal.
How do you see this game going, Shaq?
Well, as everybody seems continues to suggest, that this is a game Sweden are going to do as they've always done: 2 banks of 4, hope to hit you on the break or from a set piece. And in a tournament that's been defined by underdogs winning and set pieces, you understand that approach. I still think England are going to go through, Dan.
Well, that's not good, is it? Considering your record today, 0 for 2.
Kiss of death.
That doesn't help anyone.
See you later, England.
Congrats, Sweden. Give them it now.
I tried. I still see England going through.
Who's going through, Mike?
I'm going to go for England as well. I just want them, the stuff that I said after the Colombia game, what Ali's just said, I want them to play quick, turn, have lots of confidence, go forward as quickly as can and use the pace of whoever's going to play, whether it's Lingard or Sterling or Harry Kane, but go forward. Yeah. Go forward and try things. And if it doesn't happen, try again. Be confident. And if they do that, I think England have got far too much quality for Sweden.
What was that, Macca? You want more animal predictions? Certainly. Let's go to Socky 2, shall we? The Croatia, of course, taking on Russia. In the other game, Croatia favourites, not quite as strong as England, in fact. So let's go to the Sochi Zoo and join Harry the Otter. He's got 2 balls. One is Russia and one is Croatia. There we are.
All right. Scientific.
Yes,
that
right,
would be Croatia.
So let's hope he picks... Oh, dear.
That's not a big tank, by the way.
Oh, Harry.
Oh, no.
He could be in trouble.
Uh-oh. Make a run for it, Harry.
Well, he can't.
Who's going through in this one, Shaka?
Croatia. I'm confident I'm going to get 1 of these right.
Well, you got 2 right. You picked England.
Yeah, exactly. Macca?
Croatia, I think there's a big gulf in class here. I'm going for Croatia all day long.
I'm with Harry.
Croatia. Well, we'll see who's right tomorrow.
Welcome back, everybody, to one of our ESPN FC Facebook Lives. We've been doing this throughout the World Cup. Shaka Hislop is back, so you know it's about to be lit, because last time Shaka was here, he absolutely, I would like to say, lit a new fire under Argentina. They're out of the tournament. France defeated them, and France continue marching on today over another South American team, this time Uruguay. A 2-0 win sees Le Bleu in the semifinals, as a couple of people would have predicted, except this man right here, Shaka Hislop. But before we get to breaking down the game, we just want to remind you guys to send in your questions about this game or anything else from the World Cup. Shaka will be tackling them. Shaka, so please explain to the people how and why you had Uruguay to win this encounter over France.
Well, I just thought that between the two, Uruguay had been more organised, certainly defensively. Yes, no Edinson Cavani, but Stuani would come in. He played that role in CONMEBOL qualifying to very good effect for Uruguay. And just, this is a Uruguay team who are resolute defensively. You know what they're going to do. They're going to defend well. They're going to be organized. And they have enough in terms of talent and in terms of Luis Suarez to grab a goal. I didn't think it'd be pretty. I didn't think it'd be high scoring. But I thought Uruguay would win. I was also hoping that we'd see a better Luis Suarez. Now, didn't have a great domestic season. Still expected a bit more from him than what we've seen so far in the World Cup. And I thought without Cavani, this was his opportunity to step up, to really impose his own personality and his own talents on this team. And I don't think he did that. But at the same time, as much as I can be critical of Luis Suarez in that regard, I can look at almost anybody for Uruguay and say the exact same thing.
Because they had a pretty bad day.
They had a bad day.
Yeah,
they had a bad day. Which happens. And you pick the wrong time and probably the wrong opponents to do that. Now, Gutierrez and Godin have been simply outstanding. Now, you speak to Stephen Nicol, he will tell you, and you cannot disagree with Steve Nicol when he speaks about defenders. Yeah. That Godin is one of the best centre-backs in world football, still, today. Yet still, I found that every time France kind of went down one wing and then switched the ball over to the other side of play, there were these amazing gaps that just opened up in the heart of the Uruguay defence. And you'd not seen that Not just this tournament. You're not seeing that from Uruguay. You've come to expect that from them for quite some time. And that was amazing to me. Now, you had Mbappe who had one 6 or 7 yards out, that if he just let it drop, he tried to head it early. Again, the ball comes from a switch, Giroud heads it back across, and he's standing in 3 or 4 yards of space. He's 6 or 7 yards out from goal. And he tried to head it. I just don't think he didn't realize how much space he had. Yeah. He didn't expect to have so much space. If he let it drop, he'd have been one-on-one, like staring at the whites of Muslera's eyes. But he didn't know, he didn't expect, and made a mess of the opportunity. There was another play, I remember France went down the right, brought the ball out to the left, and then all of a sudden, Giroud just kind of walks in at the far post and is standing in acres of space yet again. Nobody picked him up, but somehow, for some ridiculous reason, I can't remember who had the ball, just kind of passed it backwards, and the opportunity went to beg. And I thought, this is not Uruguay I was expecting.
We're just taking some of the questions now from people, especially now that I see one about Uruguay. A lot of them I have to do with France, and we'll get to France in just a bit, especially because Shaka did not have them going through, surprisingly. But Rai wants to know, what do you think? That's the second time
you said that, by the way.
I just put it out there because Shaka clearly didn't want to win predictor. But okay, so Rai wants to know, Shaka, in your opinion, what was wrong with Suarez today? Was France just doing anything exceptional to close him out? Or, like you said, was it just unfortunate that he landed on a bad day?
I don't think Luis Suarez had a great tournament. I expected so much of him, not just over these last few weeks.
Because we expect him to get it together, especially as a World Cup.
More of him the last 52 weeks. I don't think he's had a great season, Luis Suarez. But I just hope that you would see more. And again, as I mentioned, without Enskrivani, I just thought you would see a busier Luis Suarez, somebody trying to impose himself and his personality, not just on this Uruguay team, but on the game. Saying all that, I don't think that does justice to Umtiti and Varane and how good they were on the day. I don't think it does justice to how good N'Golo Kante was on the day, and continues, and has been forever, it seems. But the two centre-backs who maybe haven't had as much praise this tournament as Kante has, simply outstanding. The only two opportunities Uruguay had, one was from a set piece, which brought out a save from Hugo Lloris that was simply outstanding, and the other, Umtiti dwelling on the ball in his own box, but made up for his own error, and kind of in the end got it clear. So, but that was the only time that you at all felt nervous with this French rear guard, who've had their issues, but I thought they were simply outstanding. And I say that as much as I say France have had their issues, I can just hear people screaming, well, listen, look at the defensive record so far this tournament. Yeah. But still, they've had a lot of nervy moments.
Because you're not happy when they let in 3 goals against Argentina.
Exactly. They've had their nervy moments this tournament. And that Argentina game, all right, that kind of took the shine of what has been an otherwise good defensive record, but they've had their moments. Argentina exposed them. I expected Uruguay on the day to also find their way, but they just couldn't. And as I mentioned, barely got a sniff.
All right, we'll take more of your questions now while we're still talking about Uruguay. We have 2 coming in now. Shaka, what goes through a goalkeeper's mind after making a mistake like Muslera did? And number 2, Carlton wants to know, why are South American teams falling so short, Shaka, at least at this World Cup now? Is it time to panic? Which one you want to tackle first?
Well, I'll do the goalkeeper one first, because that one was asked first.
He's so excited to do this?
No, truthfully, I am not. And I've had my fair share of moments dealing with these kind of mistakes. Thankfully, not at this stage or this level of competition, either for club or for country. And your heart breaks when you see a goalkeeper do that. And then as a goalkeeper, and you kind of know how thin the margins are. You see the movement on the ball from Antoine Griezmann, and you sympathise. And again, your heart breaks, but at the same time, you know that there's going to be all kinds of noise about, there's a goalkeeper complaining again about the ball, and the ball barely moved. And it takes a movement of 2 inches, literally,
Yeah.
for that to happen and for you to find yourself embarrassed by it. So it's hard. It's hard to put your finger on, or it's hard to kind of explain to somebody who hasn't been there, and it's also impossible to understand exactly what is going through a goalkeeper's mind in that circumstance. I will say this though, that maybe it's a little bit different because we were talking about exactly this with Karius in the Champions League final recently. The difference there being Karius, a young goalkeeper trying to establish himself at a big club. This is Muslera's 3rd World Cup for Uruguay. So he's experienced. Whether he plays again for Uruguay in 4 years' time, if they do qualify, time will tell. So because of the experience and the status and stature of the two are totally different, Muslera will handle it a whole lot differently. Muslera also very, very experienced. Had time in Syria, playing in Turkey, with Galatasaray, 11 titles in 7 years. I was looking it up. So, you know, he's established, and you know who he is and what he is and what he's about.
But it
especially
happens.
And it happens. And he'll take that on his chin and he'll move on. And you can't explain it, you can't apologize it away, say not to your teammates. It's a bitter pill to swallow, especially in a competition and at a stage like this where now you're out.
And now what about the question on South American teams? Because this has been a sort of theme. I mean, Brazil's still very much in it, of course, and we are all happy to see Brazil still in it. But there has been some panic, I suppose, about it, especially seeing the struggles that Argentina have been going through. So what do you think of the state of South America?
Well, the struggles with Argentina aren't all that surprising, right? And now that the dust is settled, Argentina struggled to qualify.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the last day of CONMEBOL qualifying when they were sure that they were one of the guaranteed spots, not going to playoffs. Peru went to playoffs, actually drew with New Zealand at home. So maybe you can explain some of their struggles, though I have to say, them included, I expected a whole lot more. I was disappointed with Colombia. They were good in qualifying, yet had this ridiculous approach against the English, where I felt they were playing for a draw from the opening whistle, and then only when, as the game started to dwindle, then came out to play, got a goal again from a set piece, and went out on penalties. But over the course of, well, in particular the first 90 minutes, if you want to say 120, I thought they were disappointing. I expected more from them, certainly football-wise. So it's not been a great campaign for South American teams, especially when you compare it to the last 2 World Cups, where you had all these South American teams who I think last World Cup was 6 out of 7, and then South Africa was, I think, might have been all 5 who qualified, went into the knockout stage. I expected more. And now Brazil fly the flag, they cruised through South American qualifying, still in as the bookies' favourites, and rightly so. But yes, Brazil aside, what I'd come to expect, or what I was expecting from South American teams, hugely disappointing.
All right, we'll put that one to rest now. And let's talk about France just quickly before we start wrapping things up here. Geo5 wants to know, France all the way, Shaka. Do you agree? Can we finally say that this France team is looking like the pre-tournament, or one of the pre-tournament favorites that so many of the bookies and, pundits and a lot of us really had them as, clearly, except for you, though, Shaka? But have they convinced you now?
Well, I still don't have them as favorites. I have Brazil as favorites. Right? But this is and the thing with this French team is, when you look at them on paper, yes, they should be there. They should be a whole lot closer. They should be getting a whole lot more respect from idiots like me. But the thing is, and what we've said all tournament long is, they've been inconsistent as a team and as individuals. Kante has been outstanding from the first whistle to the very last against Uruguay.
He's all over the shop.
Aside from that, Griezmann has been up and down. Had his best performance of the tournament, as I say, against Uruguay. Mbappe has been up and down. I thought got consistently better all tournament long. Had his best game against Argentina. Didn't do an awful lot today. Pogba continues to be this enigma. Is he great? Is he not? I think he's grown into this tournament as well. His last 2 games in particular have been very good. He hasn't taking the game over by the scruff of the neck, but he has had huge impacts to how this French team plays. Giroud didn't even start the first game, but is now first team on the team sheet. Hugo Lloris, we've seen him have the odd error for France in the international stage, has been solid all tournament long. Huge save against Uruguay, as I mentioned earlier. I still think one of the best goalkeepers in the world, though again, every now and then he reminds you that he is human. So all those things put together, you just have to wonder, if it all comes together, this is a French team that can beat anybody. But it has to all come together, and I don't think all the pieces have come together just yet, which is why you've seen, a bit of an up and down. But at the same time, Brazil and Croatia, I think, haven't given you a whole lot to question. Everybody else, you can find reason to praise, but you can find reason to doubt. My big complaint about Brazil, and I have to say this because we are talking about favorites here, is I double down on my criticism of Neymar. I don't think, outside of Ronaldo and Messi, I don't think there's a more talented footballer on the planet. But his rolling around, and at times how long he dwells on the ball, I think takes a lot of momentum out of Brazil. Now, people are critical about Neymar and the diving and the rolling and the histrionics. That to his side, I think Brazil have been so good and have been so dominant that when he does that, it takes momentum out of the game.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest criticism of it. Brazil want the ball in play. Brazil want everybody standing up, want the ball in play, because when they are, I don't think many people live with them. But when one player, I read something on social media yesterday where so far in this tournament, Neymar has spent 14 minutes on the ground. That is simply ridiculous. This is 14 minutes all tournament long. And how many games have you played? 4? Yeah, so 3 group stage, one so far.
Yeah.
So that's over 3 minutes per game. So that's 3 minutes where everybody's just kind of standing around. And more importantly, where the opposition, who are second best, have time to think, have time to regroup. The manager has time to get messages onto the field. That
taking the wind out
Brazil
of
don't need
yeah.
to be given the opposition.
Brazil are too good for that. Neymar, you are
right.
better than that too. And I mean, conveniently, we had to talk about Neymar because, of course, Brazil are in action today in that juicy encounter against Belgium. But we're going to wrap things up now. Thanks so much to Shaka Hislop. We'll be back again tomorrow talking about more quarterfinal action. He's hungry.
That's why we wrap it up.
That's why he's wrapping up, because it is about lunchtime and then we have to count down for the next match. But we will be back tomorrow on Facebook Live talking more about the quarterfinal action from the World Cup. But later on today, when it's all said and done, make sure to tune into our show, ESPN FC, on the ESPN Plus app.